Welcome to Wired Up Retro, and we're ready today to talk about emulators for the PC and original Xbox. These are emulators not just from, these PlayStation or Dreamcast days, but way back in the old days, the Atari 2600 and Atari 5200. Those are the two I'm going to be talking a bit about. And actually behind me here I've got an original Xbox Afterglow controller, which I'll be using to show you something about the emulator. This is the Avalanche software. A friend of mine put this into an Xbox that I happened to find at a local thrift store for $8. So anyway, I'm in business. So if you go down here to the emulators icon, you'll see I've got the 2600, the 5200. I recently downloaded into this the Atari XL box, which is version 6, and that's a little better than this older version of Atari XL box that was on board originally. So, when you select that icon, you'll see it's going to access the program to do the emulating. It's called Export. And the export allows you to, pick the game that you want. I have version 6 of this particular Atari XL box software. And you can see I've got quite a few games. One of them that I would like to just show real quickly here is Centipede. You're going to use the left analog stick. It does give pretty good analog action on Centipede. I'll just give you a quick taste of it. Yeah, you can move slow, you can move fast. So yeah, you're going to be able to play pretty effectively here with this controller. Maybe not quite as nice as having a trackball, but well, hey, actually there is a way that I could show you how to use a trackball. I'll do that in a few minutes. But first I do want to talk a little bit about emulators and some of the positive things that you can do with an original Xbox. And also PC emulators for Atari 5200 or Atari 2600. All right, so if you have an Xbox and you get it modded, you can actually use PlayStation controllers to play these games. Some of the PlayStation controllers might be superior to original Xbox controllers. I have this controller adapter, which is basically a PlayStation to Xbox and also GameCube adapter. This controller adapter is actually pretty common, and that's kind of part of the reason I'm selecting this particular one to show you. You're not going to have a real hard time locating it, and it works pretty well with quite a number of PlayStation controllers on the original Xbox. It's made by Game Elements. All right, so if you're into, trying to use some PlayStation controllers, you could use one of my favorites, which is the Logitech cordless PlayStation 2 controller. I really like this. It feels good in the hands, and it's also got these really extra grippy thumbsticks, which is a plus. Another unique option that I have here, and I've touched on this in my other Wired Up Retro episodes, was the Phoenix Revolution made by Gamester. And this one allows you to take the modules out. You can maybe take the right stick and put it over on the left side, and left side stick goes on the right side. So if you want to use your right thumb to play the games, you can, and you could switch these buttons over to here if you want and swap them. These modules are very nice to have, and for gameplay where you want to use the right hand to do the controlling of whatever, like your cursor and missile command, this might be the controller that you want. It's also got an invert switch, which allows you to go, instead of up and down, down and up. Okay, so that can work nicely. Another thing I want to mention here is that there are some driving controllers, and we're going to touch on that here in a few minutes, but I'll be going into that to show you how to use the driving controllers to play certain games like pole position on the 5200 very effectively. Now, if you don't have an original Xbox, but you do have a PC and you want to play emulators like 5200 emulators there, you could buy a controller adapter called the Bliss Box, which you could ask the guy who makes this, Sean, to put on board an Atari 2600 port. On this one, I've got 2 ports. This is a PlayStation port as well, and I believe he can even put a 5200 port on there if you really want to play your 5200 games with your 5200 controller, which might be extra nice. And in fact, you could probably use this Wiko command control using that Bliss box as well. So I would definitely promote that product. I think he does a great job, and it's a quality. So this Wiko command control, I really have liked this over the past couple of decades. It really has held up well. Surprise, surprise, they actually made a PC version of this, and this one doesn't have a USB connector. It has this 15-pin controller port, and so I've looked into some options of trying to hook this up to a PC, and the best adapter that works well with it is the Rockfire USB to 15-pin controller adapter. So if you're going to play your 5200 games with one of your tried and true Wikos, this is a good way to do that. And these Rockfire controller adapters might run you $20. I bought this on eBay for about, I think, $9 plus shipping, so I got a very good deal on that. Another 9-pin controller that you can use with that Rockfire adapter is this Ultra Racer PC, which has the 15-pin connector. And this again might go well for a game like Super Breakout or even Space Invaders, obviously pole position. It's kind of a racing controller, so something to be aware of there. Now, so let me just tell you this. I was mentioning all these PC controllers working on PCs. Unfortunately, they won't work on this Xbox. The Xbox is geared more for Xbox controllers, obviously, so you're not going to be able to use PC controllers on it. But with those adapters, you can use PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 controllers. Another PlayStation 1 controller I want to show you here that I like is the Barracuda. This is made by Interact. It's kind of huge, but one great thing about it is that you can switch the left stick for the right stick. And you're probably wondering, okay, if you're using the right stick, you can't exactly get to the X button. So what would you do? Well, I might take in the game menus, I might use this button and that button for the button 1 and button 2 fire, while I'm using the right hand to do the left and right and the up and down. So you can assign things very nicely in the menus, and if you want to use your right thumb, you can use this controller. I think the Barracuda 2, also made by Interact, has that feature as well, which is kind of nice. Another thing I'll mention here is that you can use another unique option called the Smart Joy Frag, and this is an Xbox compatible device, or you could say adapter, that lets you use a mouse and a keyboard on your original Xbox. And I've tried this, and I've managed to get some trackballs for the PC working on this original Xbox. And one of the trackballs I got working successfully is the tank stick made by X Arcade, and I had featured that on my one of my most recent videos. So you might want to consider trying Trackball to play games like Missile Command for Atari 2600 emulator games on this Xbox, and I've had that working with success with this. Another thing that I'll mention is that you can use that on the 5200 to play certain games. Another option, though, that they give you in the Xbox menus, if you go into configuration, you can actually set up a mouse to work in port 2, a PC mouse. And the way you do that, it comes with a, it has to have a USB connector, but you take that and put it into a Xbox original to USB connection. So I have that over here. And when you plug it all in to this port, you can assign it to port 2, or you can assign it to port 1 if you want to unplug this. But it allows you to use those mice or trackballs that are PC oriented on your Xbox original. So games for the 5200 that work best with that in port 2 would be Missile Command, and especially Star Wars Arcade. Fantastic with a trackball. Yahoo! And another one that I definitely want to mention is that fidget spinner spinner controller that was basically a mod of a mouse for a PC, working on this as well to play games like Super Breakout on the Atari 5200, as well as the racing game Pole Position, etc. You know, many different games can be used left and right action with that fidget spinner mod, and that comes from my most recent Wired Up Retro video. If you haven't seen that yet, it's actually a very quick mod of a mouse that can be done with a fidget spinner and some unique adhesive means. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely look into that. You know, I definitely had a lot of fun making that, and I think you can too. All right, so another thing I wanted to show you here was this PlayStation controller called the Top Max joystick. And this also can be plugged into a Xbox to PlayStation adapter. And this one has a lot of nice clicky action. It's definitely a good quality joystick that you might want to try. And another thing, if you don't like it being on the left side, you can actually change the menus again to make it a right-hander joystick, and then you could just press maybe these two buttons to do your action. Again, programming it in the menus allows you to do that in either a PC menu of an emulator or on the original Xbox configuration screen. So I do like this Top Max. Another one I want to talk about, and this is, we're kind of getting into some of the controllers that are for left and right action, racing game type controllers that can be used on even paddle games on the Atari 2600. Games like Night Driver, I've had some fun using some of these original PlayStation controllers to do the left and right action. So let me go into that a little bit. I'll start with my maybe mediocre options. I don't know if any of you have the Gamester wheel, but this basically is a handheld steering wheel that allows you to get a small amount of analog action. You know, it's not the ideal. It is kind of shaped like a steering wheel, which makes it kind of cool looking. And for a game like Pole Position, it might do an adequate job. This one just requires, on the original Xbox, having that PlayStation to Xbox adapter. So very simple. Now, the PlayStation 2 era brought us the Logic 3 racing controller, and this one definitely has those modes that you want, such as dual shock mode. It's also got a Nijicon mode, and it's even got the, I think it's got the digital mode, which you probably don't want. But this one has a little bit more of a force feedback kind of, and a mechanism inside that kind of draws it back to its center position, as opposed to the other one, which is just a simple spring. So it does kind of have a different feel to it, and again, it's got quite a bit of throw for games like Super Breakout on the 5200 emulator, and you might also want to try it on 2600 games that have the paddle. Warlords comes to mind, and maybe a couple others. So yeah, give that a try. One of my favorite 2600 paddle games is Solar Storm. It is kind of a hard game to beat, but it's just fun. I like moving the ship left and right on the screen using the analog paddles. And you can use your right hand on this and use your left hand here. So I really do like these kind of controllers that have that. Now, there's another controller, boy, I've got another one. This one's made by Hyperkin. This one has the dial on the shoulder. Very short throw. It's kind of, I would say, not great. And it feels kind of cuts into your fingers. But, you know, it is an analog controller, worth mentioning. And yeah, a little plasticky, not a high quality controller. Now, there's another way. It's a little more, you could say these next controllers have some really nice feel to them, okay, but they require an adapter that's rare to be able to use them on this original Xbox. And this particular adapter that's rare, well, I have to show you the controller first, okay. The controller is the Nijicon controller. Namco made this for the PlayStation 1, and it has a special steering wheel mode. It's basically a PlayStation 1 only steering wheel mode, and the Xbox, when plugging into, let's say, the Game Elements adapter, it's not going to recognize the PlayStation 1 steering mode, okay? But there have been adapters made for this original Xbox that actually have programmed in the firmware on board the Nijicon mode, okay? And this one is called the X Connection. It's made by Innovation, and it's for the original Xbox. And the X Connection does a fantastic job of allowing you to use your Namco Nijicon to play racing games on this original Xbox, or games like Super Breakout on your 5200 emulator. It also enables you to play paddle games on your 2600 emulator. But these will work really well on the 5200 game pole position and the 5200 games like Space Invaders. There's also another Nijicon that came out a little later on in the PlayStation life, and that Namco made this black one. It's a little more compact, it's got a little bit more ergonomic design. It is definitely a pretty sleek looking controller, which I have enjoyed playing with for years on my racing games. But yeah, you want to use it on the emulators for analog games. Certain analog games are great with it. Another thing I'll mention is that it's not just the Innovation X connection that you could buy that would do this, but there's another one. I just found out about this. This is called the DragonBox Super XB Converter. And on this, it has PS1 and 2 X.B Rumble. So apparently it has Rumble. This has Rumble too. I think they're honestly one and the same. It's just that there's a different company that put their logo on it. But it is just like the X connection, enabling the steering wheel mode for PlayStation 1 controllers that have that. All right, so yeah, I've just got to show off my Nijicon, black Nijicon box here, and I've got the white Nijicon box as well. And another controller that I have a box for, the Ultra Racer for PlayStation 1, which I was showing you before on the PC option there. You can play some games with the PlayStation 1 steering controller called the Ultra Racer and use those X connection or the DragonBox to do that. Another thing, there is such a thing as an Innovation X connection that doesn't work. Let me grab that. Okay, so the Innovation X connection that doesn't work for these steering controllers is a Xbox to PlayStation controller adapter that looks like that. So it's kind of like a mini Xbox. But yeah, it does not enable the compatibility like the original Innovation X connection, which I think came out around 2002. This is probably released a little later after that. Who knows why they took out the firmware that did the adapting, but they did. So just, be aware if you find this and you're like, I found the X connection. You didn't. It doesn't work. Oh, and there's one more I definitely wanted to share about, and that's the Thrustmaster Run and Drive controller, which basically has a little steering wheel mounted around the directional pad on the controller. And this is PlayStation 3, PC, and PlayStation 2, obviously, as you could see that connector right there, compatible. And I do like this controller, especially to play the paddle games on the Atari 2600. Now, as you know, I'm kind of a person who likes to have the right hand on the dial when I play paddle games, and this controller has it on the left side. So what do? What's the way to fix that? Well, if you turn the controller totally upside down with the top of the controller at the bottom and the little handles pointing up, you can put your right hand on that dial and swivel it just like you would if you were holding an Atari 2600 paddle. And then you can just press the X button on the PlayStation controller to fire away. So I was playing some Night Driver with this controller effectively, and I really do want to mention this. If you have that X connection or the DragonBox, this is going to be a really nice controller for you to utilize. Another little prized possession that I have, which I never did open, is a PC run and drive controller by Thrustmaster. This particular version is only PC compatible, not PlayStation 2 compatible. So I would definitely say this is a real snazzy little piece of my collection. I do like it quite a bit because of the looks mainly. But yeah, if you're playing your PC games and you want to run and drive, this is good for emulators. But wait, What is this? That is a Mega Racer controller made by Performance. The good news here is that you don't need the rare adapter, the X connection or Dragon Box, to use this one. You just plug it into the, the game elements adapter, and you can, handle this one right side up if you want to hold it with the left hand on the dial, or you can turn it upside down just like you could with the run and drive. So this is actually something I just discovered recently, and it's really good news for those of us who really like the paddle games with a nice quality dial. I really like the feel of this controller, so you might want to check out the Mega Racer. It's actually pretty commonly found. It's an eBay item that you can have for probably around $10 or less. So you might want to go ahead and grab that one along with that Game Elements adapter. It's very, very nice. It's time to show you some gameplay and some footage of how to put these controllers, hook them up to the Xbox and get it all into action. So, all right, we'll see you in a few. Thanks.